Hey everybody, this is Dan back with another Palworld video. At the beginning of this month, which is April 2024, Palworld had a new update patch, version 0.2.2.0. The big change in this patch was the addition of a raid boss, Bellanoir. And the way that this raid boss is initiated is through a new structure that they added and a consumable item called a slab that you have to put into that summoning altar to then generate the raid boss. So the slab is crafted from fragments which are found in the game's various dungeons. There are two forms of the Bellanoir fight, the regular Bellanoir and then the pink looking version called Bellanoir Libero. And Bellanoir Libero is very strong, level 50, almost 500,000 HP. And her shards are exclusive to the Astral Mountains and Volcano area dungeons. Now, the Volcano is not the best place to farm for them because you still may get the weaker form of Bellanoir's shards, but in the Ice Mountains, the Astral Mountains, you will only get the Bellanoir Libero shard slab fragments. And that is why I'm making this video. There are a number of pals that I think are best for traversing the dungeons up here in the Astral Mountains, which give you the highest drop rate for the slab fragments. Fenglope, whom I'm riding, is certainly one of them. And I'm riding, well, I guess I can sprint now, just to show how fast he can get from start to finish of one of these dungeons if you don't run into a wall. There's the Reptiro I defeated, but just like that, as a matter of just moving, this mount can make it from start to finish in that quick a time. I got two Libero slab fragments there, so that's great. I had one already, I'm at 3, and it takes 4 to craft a full slab. So in just a couple of dungeon runs, you can get enough fragments to make a full slab and raid for your own Bellanoir Libero. So there was a change to a very particular PAL that I did not see listed in any of the update notes, but that PAL is Ragnahawk. And Ragnahawk was, I don't know if he was unique, but he was certainly notable because before this patch, he was able to pass through these doorways, like the one I'm looking at now. Ragnahawk was formerly able to make it through these, and now he cannot. So what was once one of the strongest pals for dungeon clearing, especially the Sacred Mountain dungeons up here, because he could go through there, he's a flying mount, and he changed your damage to fire. It was a dream come true, but as we just saw, Ragnahawk is no longer able to pass through these doors. And this got me thinking, which pals would now or still be most effective at clearing these dungeons, given that we're going to want to do that with much higher frequency now, given the availability of the slab fragments. So Ragnahawk has unfortunately fallen out of usefulness for this regard. But as far as these dungeons are concerned, they have a number of impediments or obstacles. These doorways are just one of them, and I tested pals for their ability to pass through these doorways. Another one that I would consider is crevices or narrow passages. These Ice Mountain dungeons have a number of formats, right? And this was really the easiest one where you can kind of just go straight through to the end. But most of them, or I should say one of them, has a passage even narrower than this one, I believe. All of them have this one to the boss room, which is really a narrow passage. But there's one with like a blue ice wall that's sometimes even hard to see, that's really quite narrow and tough for a lot of pals to get through. So I consider that another obstacle. And there's another format where there's essentially a vertical room. It's just like a wall and you have to fly up it. I would consider that another obstacle in these dungeons. And then finally, the wild pals you can encounter: Lunaris, who's neutral type, Tombat and Maraith, who are dark type, Cybelix and Reptiro Christ, who are ice type, with Reptiro also being ground. And then you can also run into these Palgenetic researchers, right? So those are the things that you'll encounter in these dungeons, and I've prepared a quick tier list here of pals and what I would rank their effectiveness at clearing these obstacles. I've left off Necromus Palladius and Frostallion because they are the best. If you have access to them, use them. As you saw, my Frostallion has no issue with the doorways or the narrow passages, and he has wings, so once you're outside of the dungeon, you can take to him, or take to the skies while riding him to then get to the next dungeon without any difficulty. Frostallion, hands down the best to use. Palladius would be second. He has not just a double jump, but a triple jump in addition to incredible movement specs. So even the vertical wall room will not be an issue for Palladius in his triple jump. Necromus in his double jump also are able to clear. Do keep in mind the alpha forms cannot make the dungeon trek. They cannot get through the doors. They cannot get through the narrow passages. You'll have to breed down for the normal sized variants. But as far as the S tier goes, I want to start talking about Shadowbeak because, like Frostallion Noct, he has got ground and sky capability. He is the best non-legendary pal you can use, but his restriction is that he can't pass through those narrow passages. He's just a little bit too wide. So you will have to dismount him at that or those junctures, but otherwise you'll be able to fight on him the whole time, mounted the whole time. And that's another thing that I'm really considering is dismount time, because we're going to be moving through these dungeons for maximum efficiency to get to these fragments at the end. It's almost tangential to even mention the pals. It is up to you if you want to combat them or not, but I'm more considering the need to dismount as the greatest barrier to a speedy clear. And everything up here in S tier, except for Shadowbeak at those narrow passages, you can stay on these mounts for the entire dungeon. I'm sure most players know about Fanglope and just his incredible movement specs. Rayhound and Fanglope have double jumps and incredible ground speed. They will get you through these without issue. Pyron is similar. His jump is really good. It's only one jump, but he changes your damage to fire. The pals who change your damage while mounted, such as Pyron, Chillet, Azurobe, Univolt, they took a nerf in this patch. They used to double your damage, but now they only multiply it by a factor of 1.2. It is a heavy nerf, but 1.2 is still 20% extra damage, which is nothing to scoff at. In addition, changing it to fire is effective against the Cybelix and the Reptiro that appear as wild pals, and it's also really good at against a lot of the boss pals that could spawn. Kitsun's very similar. I think he's just slightly slower than Pyron. He jumps slightly less high. They both have good fire charge moves, signature moves, but he doesn't change your damage, and for that reason he's, I would say, slightly less effective. Chillet, similarly quick, but Dragon is only a so-so type to change your damage to. Very good against the Moraith, very good against the Tombat, not so great against the ice types. So his typing is what is less effective compared to someone like Pyron. And I'd say that these next couple follow what I would consider type effectiveness. I'm ranking Pyron Noct ahead because he's got the nice charge move, which is pretty good against the Palgenetic researchers if you end up with a lot of them fighting you at once. And he's just very maneuverable. But Azurobe changes your damage to water. It's not a good thing or a bad thing, but you get the damage buff, and this thing is actually pretty quick and has a pretty effective jump. Moraith is similar, Univolt similar. They do struggle, of course, with the vertical room. They can't get up the wall. I'd say these two can, Rayhound and Fanglope, and the rest of these can't. But they're very effective otherwise. And Blazemud is up there as well. He's quick and has a good jump, and surprisingly, he's able to fit through both the doorways and the narrow spots. Of course, this does not apply to alpha variants. Arsox, he's just kind of slow, but like Kitsun, he's got a good special move. He's got a good typing. Nothing wrong with him. And Grisbolt is unique in that he's the only artillery pal, like a weapon-mounted pal that can make it through this dungeon. Masanda and Relaxorus variants are too large. Jet Dragon, obviously, too large. And then last but not least here is Dire Howl, who's very quick on the ground, very maneuverable and small. So you'll be able to fight mounted for just about the entire dungeon on the back of all of these pals. Gale Claw is significant because his dash capabilities, his ability to generate speed from a standstill, are head and shoulders above the rest of the gliders. Celery is okay, but Gale Claw's in a class of his own for just getting through these rooms with tremendous speed. The A tier, there's no problem with these guys. The wider fellows like, what's his name, Sweepa and Grintail can't get through the narrow passages, so I had to dock them for that reason. But the rest of these are just not as effective. Like Raindrix being ice type is good for taking reduced damage from ice types, but not very offensively potent. Dragon, okay against dark, shaky against the ice. Serpent Terra might be useful. I didn't really test his change because they changed it such that I think the patch notes say he makes ores way less while you ride him. That might be good if you're, collecting quartz or sulfur or something like that. I just don't see that happening very often, but a utility nonetheless. And then these guys, they move just fine. They get through the doorway just fine. Serpent, I would consider him last and probably least. He gets through the doorways. He can't get through the narrow passages, but he just doesn't offer much else. He's not terribly fast. He doesn't offer anything over anyone above him. And the only thing he offers above these is that he can get through the doors. Yormrentide Ignis cannot get through the doors, but Dragon and Fire is the most deadly type combination you can bring into these caverns. He's just very good offensively. You can't ride him, but he's great to have. So to sum it up, these are all of the unfortunate ones who can't get through the doors. They can't get through the crevices. I wouldn't recommend participating in mounted gameplay in these dungeons at all with them. Ragnahawk would have been, up here. He held that spot, but now he's been patched into irrelevancy. The rest of the flying mounts, Elphadran really close, Quivern really close, but no cigar. So I would advise investing in these guys or bringing one or more of them with you to your dungeon runs, and they will drastically improve your quality of life. They will reduce the amount of time you spend in there, and they'll just make things better in general. Frostallion is the king. The legendary ground mounts are king. But if you don't have access, Shadowbeak, Galeclaw, Fanglope Rayhound, Pyren, I cannot recommend enough for the clearing of these cavern dungeons. So that is all I wanted to discuss today. I wish you guys happy hunting and happy slab fragment collecting. I myself am still trying to get a male Bellanoir so that I can breed with them and get all the good passives. The grind is real. Apparently it's only a 5% rate, so pray for me. And let me know what you think the best change of the patch has been so far. For me, it's got to be the ore mining pit. I love the utility of just having that, in any base and freeing up, an extra base to not be tied down to ore spots. So let me know what you think of the new patch. I've been very pleased with it, and best of luck in your Palworld adventures. See ya.